The Magic Show is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, and check this out. On January 5th and 6th, the StarCityGames.com Open Series comes to Columbus, and this event is going to be huge. We're talking the Standard Open with $10,000 in prizes paid down to 64th place, a Legacy Open with $10,000 in prizes paid down to 64th place, at least 16 players qualifying for any SCG Invitational in 2013, live coverage all weekend long courtesy of SCG Live, and as much Magic the Gathering as we can pack into one weekend. So make plans to join us when the StarCityGames.com Open Series comes to Columbus, and we'll see you there. Hello everybody and welcome to another edition of The Magic Show. This week we're back. It's still technically holiday time, and old Santa Watsy did an accidental spoiling yet again, then went ahead and gave us new Gatecrash spoilers every single day during Christmas week. What a bunch of swell guys. Let's go. Now first up we have Simic Flux Mage. This card debuts the Evolve mechanic for the very first time, coming directly from the Great Designer Search 2, where the mechanic was also named Evolve but didn't include toughness in the condition to put a +1/+1 counter on the creature in question. Now, how strong is this mechanic? It's very, very strong, particularly in Limited. The ability for every creature that enters the battlefield, including tokens like those left behind by Thragtusk, to make your guys bigger can get out of hand very fast. I do love that it still has the Simic flavor of messing with +1/+1 counters, as Graft was pretty sweet back in the day. Evolve, however, is Graft on overdrive and is a gift that keeps on giving. Now, before we get too crazy with how this thing works, let's get the big rules question out of the way with old Flux Mage. Let's say you have a +1/+1 counter on Simic Flux Mage, making it a 2/3. You play a 2/2 bear. Can you move the counter to the bear with a trigger on the stack and get an additional +1/+1 counter on Simic Flux Mage? No. Why? Because of the intervening if clause. What the hell is that? It means that if there are two different things going on with that trigger, that is, when another creature enters the battlefield, it has to have power toughness greater than this creature, and if it does put a +1/+1 counter on it, for the second thing to happen, the first thing has to happen. So that means that when the bear enters the battlefield, you have to check to see if the power or toughness of this bear is greater than the Flux Mage. Because it's not, nothing ever goes on the stack. Now, I hope I explained that well, because during my last show, I got a bit ahead of myself by saying that 2 Dark Confidant warnings used to get you a game loss when it was actually 3, and somehow DCI Level 5 Judge Toby Elliott told me that my invisible triggers examples were wrong, even though I kind of took them from the articles I cited. You know, articles by real-world pros who play this game at a much higher level than you or I. But you know, whatever. Anyway, the Simic mechanic is friggin' sweet, and Watsy gave us another one to chew on. Have you seen Fathom Mage? Now, first up, this card was crapped on by many a player. It's not powerful enough for the cost, and it should have been 3 mana, and to which I reply, exactly which brand of crazy did you crack a can of this morning? Because firstly, well, alright, I kind of agree she's a little underpowered. But where we disagree, and where all that crazy soda comes in, is that this card would have been completely absurd at 3 mana. On turn 2, with any accelerator, being able to power out a Fathom Mage means your opponent has to answer this girl quick. And I don't mean like pack rat quick. I mean like if they untap, you're probably losing quick. Because once you hit 4 mana, there's Restoration Angel, there's Huntmaster of the Fells, there's Thragypoo at 5 mana, and so on. I mean, even Snapcaster Mage triggers this girl on the first go-around, and that is very powerful stuff. While I think it's not the best Guild Crash mechanic, I wouldn't eschew it quite yet. We've still got quite a few cards featuring Evolve to go. Now next up is Rubble Hulk, featuring the new Blood Rush mechanic, a mechanic I would like to deem the Giant Growth mechanic. Now first, guys, somehow the chatter for this mechanic went from it's a +X thing to it's a Land Matters mechanic, upon which I go, what? For me, this guild gives you the most core component of playing Magic. Do they have a Giant Growth effect? I mean, how much more classic can you get when it's a 2/2 attacking into a 3/3 and you play the game of do they have it? I mean, Giant Growth isn't just playable in Return to Ravnica Limited. It's playable in damn near every limited format it's in. And why? Because you trade up. It's why Mana Leak was so damn oppressive in Standard. Get ahead and use less mana or cards to do what your opponent is doing and you will win. Pretty standard Magic calculation. Now that said, let's not underestimate old Hulky here. He's the real deal, and if you haven't seen how many ridiculous Farseek-laden decks there are in Standard, just remember that Kessig Wolf Run does exist, and this creature is kind of like that. Except late, you can just play him as a huge fatty, or hell, run both and get the best of both worlds. I, for one, love me a giant growth mechanic and look forward to playing with it in the future. I'll be right back with the rest of the Gatecrash mechanics. The Magic Show is brought to you by StarCityGames.com, and check this out. On February 22nd through 24th, StarCityGames.com is proud to present Grand Prix Charlotte with $30,000 in cash prizes, a gold rush that is twice as big as before, a huge standard event on Sunday taking the winner on a free trip to GP Miami in June. This is the can't-miss Magic event of the year. Find out all the info and more at GPCharlotte.com. On Wednesday, they revealed Fireman Avenger and the Battalion mechanic. So, Boros features the worst mechanic in Ravnica, and in Gatecrash, let's just say I hope it's good. I mean, this card is obviously the business and limited. I mean, come on, it's Light and Helix on a damn stick. But if you want to get really cute and modern, Mirrorweave says hello. But requiring 2 additional creatures to attack is kind of tough for a mechanic to trigger, but Midnight Haunting does exist, so, sure. I guess. I hope. I mean, they're going to have to get a lot better than Fireman Avenger to reach standard, but I'm excited to see the push to Battalion cards. Thursday brought us the Orzhovian mechanic Extort, which is actually really cool if you get into the Orzhov-driven Taxus theme, and it also notes that Thralls will be back in Gatecrash, peeps who haven't really seen any printing since Ice Age and Guild Pact. Anyway, a few things. One, you can't play this guy, a 1-mana spell, and just dump all your white and black mana into Extort triggers. You get 1 trigger per spell. That's it. Now, the real exciting cards will be those that aren't 6-mana 4/4 dorks. I mean, Treasury Thrall is super cool and interesting and all, but give me something for standard. I mean, a simple 1-mana enchantment that does damn near anything would be a terrific Extort card. Every turn or so, playing Think Twice with an extra white or black mana to siphon your opponent's life slowly but surely. Imagine a Tidehollow Scholar whose only ability was Extort. Would you play that card? With cards like Lingering Souls and mechanics like Extort, don't dismiss this powerful ability just yet. Thankfully, Wizards saved the best mechanic for last. On Friday, they debuted Whispering Madness, and whoo boy, this card is a sick one. Why? It's not just its effect, of course, it's that mind-bending mechanic that goes with it. Cypher is sick! But while I love the idea of Cypher, the idea that your spells suddenly become triggered creature abilities, I totally hate its implementation. I mean, check it out. Cypher triggers, then the spell is encoded on a creature? Riddle me this, Batman. Why not just have encode be the friggin' mechanic keyword? So then you would have encode happen, so the creature is encoded with the spell. It's like that other similar mechanic that was only for artifacts. It has the imprint mechanic, but when used is imprinted on the card. Yeah, it's funny how that works. Anyway, other than a really awkward mechanic title, you best watch out for this thing, and this mechanic is far and away the one that is the scariest in terms of things going wrong. And by that I mean one spell that is too powerful with Cypher, either too cheap or too powerful in its effect, and one dumb creature like Invisible Stalker, and down the rabbit hole we go. For example, I expect a blue-black instant that draws a card and has Cypher. This would make perfect sense, giving you the feeling of making your own monster. And here's my favorite part. All of these Cypher cards stack. So if you're playing one Whispering Madness and then play another, you can encode it on the same creature. Sweet! As for Whispering Madness itself, it's not bad. It's a card that requires planning and finesse and is a bit quirky. I mean, honestly, I don't see it impacting constructed formats much, but the Invisible Stalker problem that arose during Innistrad Limited as one of the very few negative aspects to that limited environment may very well raise its ugly head again here with the Cypher mechanic. I'm dubious, at best. So that's the last Magic Show for 2012. It's been a wild one, guys, with the format of the show changing, the return to premium, the eventual return to YouTube that you're watching right now. I appreciate you guys sticking around and watching all my stuff. Until next time, Magic players, this is Evan Irwin, tapping the cards so you don't have to.